Uganda beats Rwanda to become East African Regional Football Champions. Hello and a very warm welcome to Match Point, CCTV's news program that brings you sports news from across the African continent and beyond. I'm Mahe Mutua. Here's what else we have in store for you in this week's edition. We take you to the shooting range in Egypt for the African Championships. And why there's apprehension over the number of Tanzanian athletes able to qualify for the Rio Olympic Games. Welcome again. We start with football this week, where the CECAFA Senior Challenge Cup has concluded in Addis Ababa. Uganda emerged victorious after beating Rwanda 1-0 in the finals. CCTV's Girum Chala has this update from the Ethiopian capital.
The final match of the Confederation of East and Central Africa Football Association tournament saw Rwanda and Uganda play for the trophy. Luck coupled with a good performance saw Uganda finally clinch the CECAFA title. But just before the final game, the host nation Ethiopia claimed the third spot by beating neighboring Sudan 5-4 in a penalty shootout. Originally, 12 teams were in the running for the 30th CECAFA Senior Challenge Cup. The Eritrean team pulled out and Malawi was invited to participate in the tournament. The CECAFA football tournament has been running here for the last 2 weeks. All teams competed under the umbrella of fair play. No major irregularities or disciplinary problems have been reported. The CECAFA Cup is Africa's oldest regional football event held annually. It still needs organizational and budgetary support for it to grow. But for now, Uganda will retain the bragging rights as the regional football kings until the next tournament. Grumtala CCTV, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
So indeed, Uganda are champions of the 2015 CECAFA Challenge Cup, while the host nation Ethiopia took third in penalties. Moving to Zimbabwe now, where the country's football administration has a new leader. Businessman Philip Chiangwa was elected ZIFA president on Saturday. This was during an emergency poll called after the resignation of Cuthbert Dube 2 months ago.
The beautiful game has been the cause of anguish to local fans in recent times. A series of problems ranging from financial, administrative and technical issues have seemingly whittled football's attractiveness locally. Many lay the blame on Cuthbert Dube, the former president, who was forced to step down in October. Since then, a four-way scramble to replace him has been on. It was finally settled on Saturday. Politician cum businessman Philip Chiangwa, with the least football experience of the four candidates, won 70% of the vote. A huge task now awaits him.
I find myself in a family that is to grow and change the ways that it used to do business and in a way address a number of issues. A lot of you know that there is a $6 million debt. A lot of you know that there is a lot of other issues which need to be tackled.
The financial problems have led to Zimbabwe's suspension from the 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign and put in jeopardy a number of international fixtures. Chiangwa, one of the country's most celebrated entrepreneurs, has promised to use his business acumen to turn things around. Apparently, what he lacks in football management experience, he makes up for in charisma. Philip Chiangwa is one of Zimbabwe's most recognizable faces. He's well known for driving a fleet of flashy cars, as well as his love for designer clothes, but more recently, his selfies. He's produced a series of such videos promoting his candidature, and they've all gone viral.
No, these gentlemen have come today, right? We are ready now to unleash our campaign material. We will be sending t-shirts everywhere in all the provinces, in hope that, all the provinces is anticipated are going to vote me, Philip Chiangwa, as president of ZIFA.
If he puts as much energy into his new job as he did into the videos, then many here feel the self-proclaimed king of selfies can indeed restore the beautiful game in the country. Para Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Now, FIFA's rankings for December were released this week, and let's get you an update on how Africa's teams line up. Cote d'Ivoire improved on their position as the continent's best-ranked football side, jumping up 3 positions to sit at 19th globally. The West African side is still the continent's best-ranked team, followed by Algeria, who dropped 2 places to 28th. Ghana and the Cape Verde Islands sit in 3rd and 4th respectively. The Black Stars dropped 3 spots, while the Islanders dropped 7 and are now 39th. Tunisia round off the top 5 African teams. Senegal are 6th on the tournament, having slipped 5 positions, while Congo and Guinea made jumps upwards and are 48th and 50th respectively. Egypt remained the only top 10 side that was unchanged at 57th, while Cameroon dropped 8 positions to land at 59th. Well, now the corruption scandal at football's world governing body is widening. In May, 14 members of the executive were charged by US officials, throwing the organization into chaos. Now 16 more members have been charged through this investigation. The indictment comes hours after the arrests of 2 FIFA vice presidents in Zurich. Our Dan Williams has that story.
It may have looked like business as usual at the headquarters of football's governing body. The reality was anything but. FIFA's executive committee meeting continued, but with 2 empty chairs, with 2 vice presidents, Alfredo Howitt, along with Juan Angel Nabut, arrested in a pre-dawn raid at this 5-star hotel in Zurich. But that was just the start. In all, the US Justice Department charged 16 more officials.
Now, let me say that the betrayal of trust that is set forth here is truly outrageous, and the scale of corruption alleged herein is unconscionable. And the message from this announcement should be clear to every culpable individual who remains in the shadows, hoping to evade this ongoing investigation. You will not wait us out, and you will not escape our focus.
The arrests once again place a dark cloud over FIFA. The acting president, Isa Hayatu, filling in for the suspended Sepp Blatter, argues the crisis is a result of errant individuals, not a corrupt organisation.
To my knowledge, I have never been involved in any kind of scandal, and if you do have proof that I have been involved in anything, tell me. I'm ready to receive these accusations and even to change my behavior. But to date, FIFA is not corrupted. There have been individuals within FIFA who have had a negative behavior, so you must not generalize the situation.
In response, FIFA has already begun the process of getting its house in order. The Executive Committee approved a raft of reforms aimed at cleaning up the organisation. The proposals that will be presented to FIFA's Congress in February for ratification will reduce the power of the Executive Committee, as well as limit leading officials to 3 terms in office.
I think we've had a very important step this morning. I think it is also the beginning of a very important process so that FIFA can renew itself. We all know, you all know, that FIFA is going through a major crisis. As we also all know, a crisis is a unique opportunity for a change, for renewal, and for commencing a new period of its very rich history.
But as the world football community prepares for a fresh round of fixtures on the pitch, off it, the game continues to slide deeper into crisis. These latest arrests demonstrate a widening of the investigation, and the calls for a more independent reform of FIFA grow ever louder.
Las que hemos visto, como hemos dicho, no son suficientes y hay que pedirle al deporte que...
What we have seen so far isn't enough. We have to ask this sport to renew itself and take these steps. It has to come from within football, from the players' unions, the coaches, the federations. They all have to help build a structure that makes football democratic and credible for the fans.
Democrático por un lado, pero también creíble para los aficionados.
Right now, though, that scenario is some way off. And with 2 investigations ongoing, the potential remains that FIFA's troubles could get even worse. Dan Williams, CCTV, Madrid.
Well, it's time now for us to take a short break. We have more sporting action lined up, including we take you to the shooting range in Egypt for the African Championships, and why there's apprehension over the number of Tanzanian athletes able to qualify for the Rio Olympics. Welcome back. Turning to Egypt now, where the 12th African Shooting Championship started earlier this week. 13 countries are competing this year, and as our correspondent Adel Mahroui tells us, it's among the fiercest competitions in the sport.
Focus, aim, hold your breath, and shoot. These are the instructions each of these players is telling himself. As the 12th African Shooting Championship started this year. Of all the 13 countries, there is one that all players are watching out for.
Egypt. Yeah.
Why?
Really big shooters. Yeah, really nice.
In the women's competition, the levels of team are very close. We can't say that the results are definite for one side. Egypt has dominated the titles, but Moroccan players or the Namibian player that participated in the 2012 Olympics or even the Egyptian team, still we are close. In men, it's a different story.
Egypt hosted 8 of the 12 African Shooting Championships. It has also won all of them. But there are no guarantees this year. Everyone is focused on a bigger goal.
This championship is extremely important for us and for all the African shooting federations, because they can lead us to participate in the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro in 2016, in August 2016. So for us Africans, this is a bridge to lead us to the Olympic Games.
North African countries like Algeria, Morocco and Tunisia are also known to be among the toughest competitors in the continent. South African countries like Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe and South Africa come next. They are all fighting for just one ticket to the Olympics. The African Shooting Championship has started, and like in many other sports, the competition this year is fierce, because players are not just playing for the continent's title. They're also here to win a ticket to the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. Adel Mahroui, CCTV, Cairo.
Meanwhile, Arsenal legend Robert Pires is in Kenya on a 3-day visit. The former France midfielder is expected to take part in a launch for a new initiative targeted at Kenyan youth called the Sport for Kenyan Youth Employment Program. It will be implemented through the Mathare Youth Sports Association, or MISA, aimed at youth living in the Mathare slums in Nairobi. This is Pires' first visit to the East African nation, and he complimented the country's footballing base, citing Southampton's Victor Wanyama as an example. The Frenchman has also called on his former club to sign the Kenyan midfielder, saying he thinks it could be a good purchase for the Gunners.
I've been able to watch the Kenya, any local football, but I think you have a talent, because I know Victor Wanyama. Sorry for the accent. So I think for for Kenya, is a very good ambassador. He's flying the flag on this country, and because he have a good quality, so he's doing well in Southampton, and yeah, I hope and I wish for him maybe he can join the best team in the future, because yeah, why not?
Well, now, Africa will not have a representative in the men's and women's hockey events at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. This comes after the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee announced that the criteria set out from the onset for qualification will not be changed in order to accommodate the hockey teams. The news has been met with mixed reactions, including from the players themselves, who have taken to social media to vent their frustrations.
Rassie Pieterse has played over 116 test matches for the South African men's hockey team. The veteran goalkeeper has represented his country for over 9 years and now feels let down by the South African Hockey Association and the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee after sacrificing so much for the sport he loves and so much in order to attempt to qualify for the sporting showpiece in Brazil, especially after being told that the team will not be going despite winning the African Championships in Johannesburg. This prompted an open letter on Facebook to the hierarchy at SASCOC to express his concerns after so many years of service to hockey.
It's not something that I'll usually do. It was just something that was on my chest for a while. And I thought, let me just write it, not just for myself, how I felt, but I think also for my teammates and also for some people in the hockey community that's also put a lot into this team into South African hockey.
The 32-year-old feels that hockey as a sport needs to look at rectifying its problems in order to grow and to be able to meet the criteria set about by SASCOC in future.
The biggest lack for SA Hockey has always been funding. I mean, it's a long, ongoing story. I mean, from I've been involved, you know, it's always been difficult for SA Hockey. You know, if you see how we really compete at the world stage and you see what the other countries are getting and how they are professional, and most of the countries are professional, or at least semi-professional. And like I said in my letter, unfortunately, we are not.
Despite Pieterse's open letter to SASCOC going viral and calls from around the world to allow South Africa's hockey teams to go to the Olympics increasing by the day, SASCOC remain adamant that they are not going to change the qualification criteria for the Olympic Games, and they're sticking with their policy of quality over quantity by sending medal contenders to Rio next year.
I've read one or two, you know, because, you know, I also don't want to upset myself by reading all the things, because some of them are not based on fact. Because what I've been asking them is to say that, but why don't you go to your president? You know, there was not a gun held to his head when he signed. What has been a sad point for me as head of the organization is for nobody to stand up and say that we made a mistake, we should not have signed. You know, and maybe then in the eyes of the public, there would be a far more better understanding.
The message from the SASCOC president, CEO and board is clear. The Olympic qualification criteria will not be altered regardless of the public outcry, despite reports that the federations were threatened with sanctions if they did not sign off on the criteria. True or not, the fact of the matter is Africa will not have a representative at the hockey events in Rio, and the Olympic dream for many hockey players who have worked tirelessly and funded their own way to tournaments has officially come to a gut-wrenching end. CS du Plessis, CCTV, Johannesburg.
Right now, it's less than a year until the Rio Olympic Games in 2016, and many East African sports analysts will likely be discussing whether Kenyan athletes can perform as well as in years gone by. However, in neighboring Tanzania, only 2 athletes have qualified so far. The National Olympic Committee has told CCTV that it's worried fewer numbers will qualify than in previous games. Dan Ashby reports.
2 men who are carrying a whole country's Olympic ambitions. These marathon runners are the only Tanzanians so far to qualify for Rio 2016. And one of them had never run a marathon before the qualifying race.
I'm very happy because I get good time. It was my first marathon and I ran 2:12 and I qualified for Olympic. So I hope next year maybe I'm going to do wonderful in Olympic.
But their talent exposes a problem. Why aren't more Tanzanians following in their footsteps? Their coach says it comes down to money.
We hope we can run better than the same with other countries like Kenya, like UK, but if you get support, very important for the athletes need support. Support from shoes, equipment for the training, food. That's very important for the athletes.
They have had to be incredibly determined. They buy their own shoes, they look after themselves when they're ill, and they train in comparatively basic facilities compared to most of the rest of the world. But Tanzania is desperate for a medal because it hasn't had one since 1980, and with medals comes sponsorship. But it's a vicious circle. Without facilities, they are less likely to win. But without winning, they won't get sponsorship. Philbert Bayi broke the world record in the 1500 metres, and he says today's athletes need more help from their governments.
The problem is preparation. Preparation has been very difficult for our national federations because it is very expensive to prepare the team for the Olympic Games. Without African countries investing in this sports, we'll be just lagging behind all the time.
It means that these two have an uphill battle to get a medal at Rio. But while their country lags behind in investment, they hope their determination will ensure that will not happen in the race. Dan Ashby, CCTV, in Tanzania.
And once again, finally, revisiting an earlier story about South Africa's Olympics qualification, the country's Confederation and Olympic Committee has had to deal with a lot of disgruntled athletes and negativity from the general public. This after announcing that they would only be sending medal contenders to the Olympic Games next year. One athlete who will be in contention for a medal in women's cycling is Ashley Moolman. The talented cyclist only started riding professionally 5 years ago, but she is now a serious medal prospect in Brazil, as CS Duplessis now reports.
2015 has belonged to Ashley Moolman. The continental and national women's cycling champion has enjoyed a superb year and recently was crowned South African Sportswoman of the Year. Despite the accolade, the Pretoria-born rider, who commutes between Italy and Spain throughout the European cycling season, says she is humbled and extremely grateful after a year that has seen her reach new heights in her cycling career.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better 2015. Rio Olympics just around the corner. And yeah, having a really good year in the build-up to the Rio Games really makes me feel motivated and very excited for what lies ahead next year.
Moolman, who made her Olympic debut in London, spends 8 months of the year cycling in Europe and has realized that the sport in South Africa is lacking in several key things that are required for women's cycling to grow and compete with the best in the world.
One of the realizations is that the pro aspect of the sport is moving more international. I've definitely realized in the past few years that to be able to be internationally competitive and to be able to go to an Olympic Games with an objective to medal, we certainly need to be racing overseas.
The Olympic Games is just over 10 months away, and for the 29-year-old, preparations have already begun as she aims to improve on her top 20 finish in 2012 and win a medal in Brazil in 2016.
Preparing for an Olympic Games is a 4-year process. So it started after crossing the finish line in London. But yeah, I mean, being here, taking some time off, enjoying the scenery, enjoying the sea, that's all part of the preparation as well. It has been a busy year, and that's the nice thing about cycling. We can take our work wherever we go. But yeah, really looking forward to starting the build-up again for next year.
For the Bigla Pro cycling team rider, winning an Olympic medal is something she has dreamt of for many years and hopes it will inspire fellow South Africans to take up the sport of cycling.
To win an Olympic medal would obviously be a dream come true. It has been a goal and objective throughout my career, but more than the medal, I think throughout my cycling career what really motivates me is the impact that I can have on others and to be able to inspire others to find their passion and to pursue it. And so to win a medal, I think it would provide that platform to be able to go out there and to spread the message and to share more stories and to help to positively influence others.
This is where Ashley Moolman comes for downtime to take a mental break from the rigours of professional cycling. But although she's having some downtime, in the back of her mind, it's all about Rio next year, where she set her sights on Olympic gold. CS Duplessis, CCTV, Meisner.
Finally, once again, it is less than 1 year until the Rio Olympic Games. For our Match Point Top 5 segment this week, let's take a look at the best performing African countries at the Olympic Games in the history of the Summer Games. At number 5 is Morocco. Since its first participation at the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome, the North African nation has participated in every edition of the Games, save for 1980. In those 14 editions, they have gone on to clinch a total of 22 medals. Among some of the highlights are athletes such as Hicham El Guerrouj, who brought in 2 of the country's 6 gold medals. Fourth are fellow North Africans Egypt. The country has had a long history with the Summer Olympics, dating back to the 1912 Games in Stockholm, when they sent just 1 athlete in fencing. Since then, the country has amassed 7 gold medals, 9 silver and 10 bronze, amounting to 26 medals in total. Third is athletics powerhouse Ethiopia. The country has a much shorter history in the Olympics, dating just 51 years. The country first sent 12 athletes to the 1956 Games in Melbourne, Australia. That expedition proved fruitless, but in the years since, Ethiopia has gone on to claim 45 medals total. 21 gold, 7 silver and 17 bronze, and incredibly, all have come only from athletics. South Africa has always sent some of the continent's biggest delegations to the Olympics and sits at second on our list. Also one of the oldest participants, the country's history at the Games dates back to 1904. Since then, South Africa has proven to be one of the most diverse African teams by disciplines and has claimed 23 gold, 26 silver and 27 medals to date, amounting to 76 medals to sit at second on the standings. And top of our list is Kenya. The other East African athletics powerhouse has won a whopping 86 medals to date. Of those, 25 are gold, 32 silver and 29 bronze, dating back to the country's first participation in the Summer Games, which was also at the 1956 edition in Melbourne. Well, that's it for this edition of Matchpoint. Remember, you can send your feedback to matchpoint@cctv.com. You can also visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa, or stay in touch with us on Twitter. The handle, as always, is CCTV News Africa. Thanks for watching. We leave you with this week's Move of the Week, where we feature the fun side of warming up before a football match, starring Borussia Dortmund players Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Marco Reus.